Welcome back to the English Daily Podcast. I am Anna, and today we are talking about the power of reading books.
And I am Jake. This is a great topic, Anna, because reading is one of those habits that can improve your English, your thinking, and even your daily life.
Exactly. When people hear the word reading, they sometimes think only of school or homework. But reading can be relaxing, practical, and enjoyable. It can open a window into new ideas, cultures, and points of view. That phrase, open a window, means it helps you see something more clearly or more widely.
I like that image. A book can feel like a window into another life. One day you are at home, and the next day you are in another country, in another century, or inside another person's mind.
That is a beautiful way to put it. Reading is also one of the best tools for language learning because it gives you repeated exposure to vocabulary, grammar, and sentence patterns. Exposure means you see or hear something many times. The more exposure you have, the more natural the language starts to feel.
So reading is not just about learning new words one by one. It is also about training your brain to recognize how English sounds on the page.
Yes, and that is an important point. Some learners try to memorize long word lists, but then they forget them quickly. When you meet words in a story, article, or chapter, you see them in context. Context means the words around a word that help you understand it.
Can you give an example of context?
Of course. If you read, "She was exhausted after climbing the mountain," you may not know exhausted right away, but the sentence gives a clue. You can guess that it means very tired. That guessing skill is called inferencing. It is one of the strongest habits a reader can build.
I see. So instead of stopping every 5 seconds to check a dictionary, I can try to figure out the meaning first.
Exactly. If you stop too often, reading becomes slow and frustrating. A useful tip for learners is to focus on the main idea first. Do not worry if you do not know every single word. Ask yourself, what is this paragraph really about?
That makes reading feel less intimidating. A lot of learners feel pressure to understand 100% of everything, but that is not realistic.
Right. Even native speakers do not understand every word in every text. Good readers are flexible. They know when to keep going and when to pause and study. That balance is important. Another helpful phrase here is reading stamina. Stamina means the ability to continue for a long time without getting tired.
So reading stamina is like exercise for the brain.
Exactly. If you read only for 2 minutes at a time, you may never build confidence. But if you read a little every day, your brain gets stronger. 10 or 15 minutes of focused reading can be surprisingly powerful.
What should a learner read? Some people say novels, others say news articles, and others say graded readers. There are so many choices.
Great question. The best reading material is the one you will actually enjoy and finish. Graded readers are books written for language learners with controlled vocabulary and simpler grammar. They are excellent for building confidence. But if you love sports, cooking, technology, or mystery stories, choose something from that world. Interest is a huge motivator.
So enjoyment matters as much as difficulty.
Yes. If the text is too difficult, you may give up. If it is too easy, you may get bored. You want the sweet spot, which means the best balance. That sweet spot is where learning and enjoyment meet.
I love that phrase, sweet spot. It sounds like the perfect middle ground.
Exactly. And here is another practical strategy: use the 3-pass method. First, skim the text. Skimming means reading quickly to get the general idea. Second, read more carefully and underline useful words or phrases. Third, review what you learned and try to use a few new expressions in your own speaking or writing.
That is really useful. So reading is not a passive activity. It can become active learning if I engage with the text.
Absolutely. Active reading means you interact with the material. You ask questions, predict what might happen next, notice repeated words, and maybe write a short summary. A summary is a short version of the main points using your own words.
Could summarizing help with speaking too?
Definitely. If you can summarize a chapter in simple English, you are practicing organization, vocabulary, and clarity at the same time. It is also a wonderful way to improve memory. Speaking of memory, many people remember stories better than isolated facts because stories have structure.
That reminds me of something. I often remember a novel scene or character better than a grammar rule. The story sticks in my mind.
That is normal. Human brains love patterns, emotions, and narrative. Narrative means a story or a sequence of events. When information is placed inside a story, it becomes easier to recall. This is one reason reading can help vocabulary stay in your long-term memory.
Long-term memory meaning the part of memory that keeps things for a long time, right?
Exactly. And if you want words to move into long-term memory, repetition helps a lot. But the repetition should be natural. Instead of drilling a word 50 times in one day, it is often better to meet it several times over a few weeks in different texts.
That feels much more realistic. What about reading aloud? Is that useful for learners?
Very useful. Reading aloud connects the written form of a word with its pronunciation. It can improve rhythm, intonation, and fluency. Intonation means the rise and fall of your voice. Even reading a few paragraphs aloud each day can help your mouth become more comfortable with English sounds.
I noticed that when I read aloud, I become more aware of stress patterns in words. Some syllables are stronger than others.
Exactly. That awareness is powerful. You also start noticing punctuation, because commas and periods affect how you pause. Punctuation gives structure to the sentence, and that structure helps you speak more naturally.
What if someone says, I want to read more, but I never have time?
That is a very common problem. My advice is to make reading easy to start. Keep a book on your desk, on your phone, or next to your bed. Link reading to an existing habit. For example, read after breakfast or before sleep. When a habit is attached to something you already do, it is much easier to maintain.
That is a smart trick. If the book is always nearby, I do not have to make a big decision every time.
Exactly. Reduce friction. Friction means anything that makes a habit harder to begin. If you have to search for your book, charge a device, and decide what to read, you may quit before you start. The easier the first step, the more likely you are to continue.
I also think reading can be a great replacement for endless scrolling on your phone. Sometimes I open one app, then suddenly 30 minutes disappear.
Yes, reading is a wonderful alternative to mindless scrolling. Mindless means you are not paying careful attention. A book gives your attention somewhere better to go. And unlike some short online content, a book can hold a single idea and develop it deeply.
That deep focus is rare these days. Maybe that is another reason books feel so satisfying.
I agree. Reading can slow the mind down in a good way. It can also build empathy. Empathy means understanding how another person feels. When you read a novel, you often step into someone else's emotions, struggles, and choices. That can make you more thoughtful in real life.
So books can improve language, concentration, and empathy all at once. That is a strong argument for reading more.
It really is. And for English learners, I would add one more practical tip: keep a vocabulary notebook. Write down a useful phrase, the example sentence, and maybe your own sentence. That way you are not just collecting words, you are using them.
Using words feels more active than simply recognizing them. Recognition is good, but production is better.
Exactly. Recognition means you understand a word when you see it. Production means you can use it yourself when speaking or writing. Both are important, but production shows deeper learning.
Anna, could you give us a simple reading routine that listeners can try this week?
Absolutely. Here is a simple one. Day 1, choose a text you genuinely like and read for 10 minutes. Day 2, review 5 useful words and make your own sentences. Day 3, summarize the text aloud in 1 minute. Day 4, read another short section and notice repeated expressions. Day 5, tell a friend, teacher, or study partner what you read about.
That sounds manageable. It is not too much, but it still covers reading, vocabulary, speaking, and review.
Exactly. Small steps lead to steady progress. And that is really the message of today's episode. Reading does not have to be perfect, fast, or difficult. It just has to be regular, interesting, and active.
So let us recap. Reading gives you exposure to real English, helps you understand words in context, builds reading stamina, improves pronunciation when you read aloud, and can even strengthen empathy and focus.
And remember these key words: exposure, context, inferencing, skimming, summary, intonation, friction, and production. If you can use those words in your own English, you are already learning deeply.
Thanks for listening to the English Daily Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe so you never miss a new lesson, and keep reading a little every day. Your future self will thank you.
Absolutely. Read something today, even if it is just a few pages, and let your English grow one page at a time. See you next time on the English Daily Podcast.